It was a warm Memphis night in the early 1970s, the kind where the air hung heavy with humidity and the faint hum of cicadas. Behind the tall gates of Graceland, the king of rock and roll sat alone in his mansion, surrounded by gold records, velvet furniture, and the weight of a world that adored him. Elvis Presley was the most famous man on earth. His voice filled radios, his face lit up movie screens, and his name sparked screams from Tokyo to Tennessee. But fame came with a price. He couldn't walk down the street without a mob. He couldn't grab a coffee without a camera flash. For Elvis, normal life was a distant memory. Then one quiet night, he did something no one expected. He put on a disguise, sunglasses, a fake beard, a simple jacket, and slipped out of Graceland. No bodyguards, no limos, no Memphis mafia. Just Elvis, driving into the city, craving a taste of the ordinary. This is the story of the night the king walked among his people, unseen, unheard, but deeply human. The weight of fame. By 1970, Elvis Presley was a living legend, but the crown was heavy. At 35, he'd conquered the world, sold millions of records, starred in dozens of films, and packed arenas with fans who wept at his sight. His 1968 comeback special had reminded everyone of his fire, and his Las Vegas residencies were electric. But fame trapped him. Fans camped outside Graceland hoping for a glimpse. Reporters trailed his every move. Even a trip to the drugstore turned into a circus. Elvis loved his fans. He'd sign autographs for hours, give away cars, hug strangers, but the constant attention left him isolated. Inside Graceland, he was surrounded by his entourage, the Memphis Mafia, a loyal crew of friends and bodyguards. Yet even with them, he felt alone. He missed simple things: eating at a diner, walking without a plan, being just Elvis, not the king. Late at night, he'd talk about it with close friends, his voice soft with longing. "I just want to be regular sometimes," he'd say, staring out at the gates that kept the world out, and him in. The plan takes shape. The idea came on a whim, the way Elvis did so many things. It was likely 1971 or 1972. No one knows the exact date because Elvis kept it secret. He was restless, pacing Graceland's jungle room, the one with the waterfall and carved furniture. The Memphis Mafia was off duty or asleep. The house was quiet. Elvis, always a night owl, felt the pull of the city beyond his walls. He'd done small escapes before, late-night drives in his Stutz Blackhawk, tinted windows hiding him from view. But this time, he wanted more. He wanted to be someone else. In his bedroom, he rummaged through a drawer and pulled out a disguise. Dark sunglasses, even at night, a fake beard he'd used for a movie laugh, a plain jacket, nothing flashy. He looked in the mirror and grinned. "Nobody's gonna know me," he muttered. It wasn't a prank or a stunt. It was a chance to breathe. He grabbed the keys to a nondescript car, not one of his Cadillacs, and slipped past the gates before the night guard could blink. Into the Memphis night. Memphis in the early 70s was alive with neon and soul. Elvis drove down Elvis Presley Boulevard, past the glowing signs of diners and gas stations, the city he'd grown up in, now a shrine to his name. He kept the radio low, maybe tuning into WHBQ, where Dewey Phillips once spun his first records. The disguise felt strange, but freeing. No jeweled jumpsuit, no cape, just a man in a jacket. He parked a few blocks from a local diner, one he'd passed 1,000 times but never entered. The kind of place with checkered floors, jukebox tunes, and waitresses who called you hun. He walked in, head low, and slid onto a stool at the counter. The bell above the door jingled, but no one looked up. For the first time in years, Elvis Presley was invisible. He ordered a burger, fries, and a Coke, his voice soft, no drawl to give him away. The waitress, a tired woman with a name tag reading "Darlene," nodded and poured his drink. To her, he was just another late-night customer. A king in the crowd. The diner was warm, filled with the clink of plates and the murmur of conversation. Truck drivers, couples on dates, a few teenagers in Letterman jackets. They all sat around Elvis, unaware. He ate slowly, savoring the normalcy. The burger was greasy, the fries crisp, the Coke cold. Simple things he rarely enjoyed without a crowd. Then the jukebox kicked on. Elvis's own voice filled the room. "Suspicious Minds," one of his biggest hits. He froze, a fry halfway to his mouth, then smiled under the fake beard. The irony wasn't lost on him. Here he was, hiding in plain sight while his song played. A group at a nearby booth started talking, loud enough for him to hear. "Man, Elvis is the greatest," one said. "Saw him in Vegas. Nobody sings like that." Another chimed in. "Yeah, but I bet he's got it rough. Can't even go out without a mob." Elvis listened, his heart full. They were talking about him, but not to him. For once, he was just part of the crowd, hearing what the world thought of the king without the filter of fame. The quiet joy. Elvis stayed longer than he planned, nursing his coke, soaking it all in. A kid at the counter bragged about sneaking into an Elvis concert. A waitress gossiped about a rumor that Elvis bought a car for a stranger. Every story was larger than life, but to Elvis they felt both true and distant. He chuckled softly, careful not to draw attention. The fake beard itched, the sunglasses hid his eyes, but inside he was glowing. This was what he missed, being around people, not above them. He thought of his daughter, Lisa Marie, asleep back at Graceland, and how he'd tell her about this one day, maybe make her laugh. He paid the bill, leaving a generous tip, more than he should have, but old habits died hard. Darlene smiled and said, "Thanks, hon. Come back anytime." Elvis nodded, his voice low. "I will," he said, meaning it. The return to Graceland. As he walked back to his car, the Memphis night wrapped around him like a blanket. The streets were quiet now, the neon signs flickering off one by one. He drove back to Graceland, the gates opening like a secret kept. Inside, he peeled off the disguise, the beard tossed onto a table, the sunglasses in a drawer. The Memphis Mafia never knew. He didn't tell them until years later. And even then, only a few, the story stayed quiet, a private treasure. But to Elvis, that night was everything. A few hours of being just a man, eating a burger, hearing his music through someone else's ears. It wasn't about fooling people. It was about feeling human. In a life of spotlights and screams, that diner stool was his escape. The fan favorite legend. The story of Elvis's disguised night out didn't spread wide until after his death in 1977. Friends like Joe Esposito and George Klein shared it in interviews, and it became a fan favorite, passed around like a sacred tale. It wasn't in the official biographies or Graceland tours, but it captured something deeper, Elvis's heart. Fans loved imagining their idol sitting among them, unseen, smiling at their chatter. It humanized the king, showed the man behind the myth. Websites and forums still debate the details. Which diner? When exactly? But the truth doesn't matter as much as the feeling. That night, Elvis wasn't performing. He was living, breathing, connecting in a way fame rarely allowed. The longing for normal. Elvis's life was a paradox, adored by millions, yet lonely in ways few understood. He gave away cars, jewelry, even houses, but craved the simple things. A quiet meal, a walk without eyes on him. The disguised night was one of many small rebellions against his gilded cage. He'd take late-night drives, visit hospitals unannounced, or hand out cash to strangers, always chasing that spark of normalcy. The diner night stood out because it was so pure. No agenda, no audience, just Elvis being Elvis. It showed his longing to be part of the world he sang to, not apart from it. Even a king, he learned, needed to feel human. As the gates of Graceland closed behind him that night, Elvis carried a secret smile. He'd walked among his fans, eaten a burger, and heard his legend through their voices. For a few hours, he wasn't the king, just a man under Memphis stars. The disguise was gone, but the memory stayed, a quiet gift he kept close. To fans, it's a story of magic. The night Elvis blended into the crowd, invisible yet more real than ever. Even a king needs to feel human. And on that night in a humble diner, Elvis Presley found his way back to himself.